The year is 1946. The world is still reeling from the aftermath of World War II, a conflict that reshaped nations and altered the course of history. In Canada, the echoes of war are still fresh, but there is a palpable sense of hope and renewal in the air. World War II has finally ended. The streets are filled with jubilant celebrations as soldiers return home, and families are reunited after years of separation and uncertainty. The relief is immense, but so is the task ahead. Canadians, like people across the globe, yearn for stability and peace. The war has left scars, both visible and invisible, but it has also fostered a collective determination to build a better future. Communities come together, driven by a shared vision of prosperity and harmony. The war effort brought sacrifice, but it also ignited a new sense of national purpose. Factories that once produced weapons of war now turn their efforts to peacetime production, fueling economic growth and innovation. The spirit of resilience and ingenuity that carried Canada through the war now propels it into a new era. Canada emerged from the conflict a changed nation, no longer content with its pre-war role. The country is poised for transformation, eager to assert its place on the global stage. The post-war period is marked by rapid industrialization and urbanization as cities expand and new opportunities arise. Returning soldiers, eager to rebuild their lives, fueled a post-war economic boom. They bring with them not only the skills and experiences gained during the war, but also a renewed sense of purpose and ambition. This generation is determined to create a prosperous and secure future for themselves and their families. The country embraced new industries and technologies. Advances in manufacturing, transportation, and communication revolutionized daily life, making it more efficient and interconnected. The seeds of modern Canada are sown in this period of rapid change and development. The Canadian landscape, once dominated by rural life, saw the rise of bustling cities. Urban centers become hubs of economic activity and cultural exchange, drawing people from all corners of the country. The skyline changes as new buildings and infrastructure projects reshape the urban environment. Suburbs sprawled as families grew, and a new era of consumerism took hold. The post-war baby boom leads to a surge in demand for housing, goods, and services. Suburban neighborhoods spring up around major cities, offering a new way of life centered around homeownership and family. This period of growth wasn't without its challenges. Economic disparities and social tensions simmer beneath the surface, occasionally erupting into protests and demands for change. The prosperity of the post-war years is not evenly distributed, and many Canadians struggle to find their place in the new order. The shadow of the Cold War loomed large, dividing the world into two ideological camps. Canada, as a member of the Western Bloc, finds itself on the front lines of this global standoff. The threat of nuclear conflict hangs over the nation, influencing its foreign and domestic policies. Canada, along with its allies, face the constant threat of nuclear war. Civil defense measures, such as air raid drills and fallout shelters, become a part of everyday life. The government invests heavily in military preparedness, balancing the need for security with the desire for peace. Internally, the country grappled with issues of social inequality and regional disparity. The post-war economic boom benefits some more than others, leading to calls for greater social justice and equity. Civil rights movements gain momentum, challenging the status quo and advocating for change. The seeds of change were sown, setting the stage for a turbulent but transformative era in Canadian history. The 1960s and beyond would see significant social, political, and economic shifts as Canada continues to evolve and redefine itself in the post-war world. The legacy of this period is one of resilience, innovation, and a relentless pursuit of a better future for all Canadians. The 1950s and 60s were a time of unprecedented prosperity. This era marked a significant transformation in the lives of Canadians, as the post-war boom brought about economic growth and a sense of optimism. Families moved into newly built suburban homes, and the main streets of towns and cities buzzed with activity. Grocery stores were filled with shoppers, reflecting the newfound affluence of the time. Canadians enjoyed a rising standard of living, fueled by a booming economy. Factory workers contributed to the industrial growth, while families gathered in their living rooms, enjoying the comforts of modern appliances and conveniences. The cityscapes of Canada were bustling with energy, as people embraced the opportunities that came with economic prosperity. New highways crisscrossed the country, connecting Canadians like never before. These highways facilitated travel and commerce, making it easier for people to explore different parts of the country. The construction of these roads was a testament to the nation's commitment to progress and development. The automobile became a symbol of freedom and progress. Car showrooms showcased the latest models, and families embarked on road trips, exploring the vast landscapes of Canada. Classic cars driving on the streets were a common sight, representing the mobility and independence that defined the era. Television sets flickered to life in living rooms, bringing the world into Canadian homes. This new medium revolutionized entertainment and information, allowing families to stay connected with global events and enjoy popular shows together. TV broadcast studios became hubs of creativity and innovation. But beneath the surface of affluence, profound social changes were underway. The 1960s saw a wave of activism and awareness as people began to question the status quo. Protest marches became a common sight, and university students played a pivotal role in advocating for change. Newspaper headlines captured the spirit of the times, highlighting the issues that were shaping the nation. The baby boom generation came of age, challenging traditional values and demanding social justice. Teenagers and young adults were at the forefront of this cultural shift, embracing new ideas and pushing for reforms. Student activism became a powerful force as young people sought to create a more just and equitable society. The women's rights movement gained momentum, advocating for equality in all aspects of life. Women entered the workforce in greater numbers, and protests for gender equality became more frequent. Leaders of the women's rights movement worked tirelessly to ensure that women had the same opportunities and rights as men. Indigenous communities, long marginalized, began to assert their rights and demand recognition of their unique cultures and histories. Protests, cultural events, highlighted the resilience and strength of Indigenous peoples as they fought for justice and acknowledgement of their contributions to Canadian society. The Canadian mosaic was becoming increasingly diverse. Multicultural festivals celebrated the rich tapestry of culture that made up the nation, and neighborhoods reflected this growing diversity. Immigration offices saw a surge in newcomers, each bringing their own traditions and languages to the Canadian landscape. Immigration surged, bringing new cultures, languages, and traditions. Immigrants arrived with hopes of freedom, contributing to the vibrant multicultural fabric of Canada. Schools became melting pots of diversity, and ethnic communities flourished, adding to Canadian cultural richness. This influx of newcomers enriched Canadian society, but also was intended to challenge rapidly all the day. Protests and community meetings addressed the complexities of integration and coexistence as Canadians worked towards building an inclusive society. The stage was set for a period of intense development, political rallies, parliaments, and also the 1950s and 60s were a transformative time. The quiet revolution that swept through Quebec in the 1960s was anything but quiet in its impact. This transformative period marked a significant shift in the province's social, political, and cultural landscape, leaving an indelible mark on its history. This period of profound social and political change saw Quebecers demanding greater control over their destiny. The movement was characterized by a collective awakening, as citizens sought to redefine their identity and assert their rights within the Canadian Federation. A surge of Quebec nationalism challenged the traditional power structures within the province and its relationship with the rest of Canada. The rise of nationalist sentiment was fueled by a desire to preserve the French language and culture, which many felt were under threat from the dominant English-speaking majority. The Catholic Church, once a dominant force in Quebec society, saw its influence wane as the province embraced secularism. This shift was emblematic of a broader move towards modernity and away from the conservative values that had long held sway in Quebec. Education and language became central battlegrounds in the fight for Quebec's cultural survival. The provincial government undertook sweeping reforms to the education system, aiming to create a more equitable and accessible framework that would serve the needs of all Quebecers. The creation of a provincial public service and the nationalization of key industries reflected a desire for economic self-determination. These measures were seen as essential steps towards building a more autonomous and prosperous Quebec, capable of charting its own course. The federal government, under Prime Minister Lester B. Pearson, responded to the rising tide of Quebec nationalism with a policy of bilingualism and biculturalism. This approach aimed to recognize and accommodate the unique cultural and linguistic identity of Quebec within the broader Canadian context. The 1969 Official Languages Act recognized French and English as the official languages of Canada, aiming to appease Quebec's concerns while promoting national unity. This landmark legislation was a testament to the federal government's commitment to fostering a more inclusive and harmonious nation. However, the question of Quebec's place within Canada remained a source of tension and debate. Despite the efforts to address the province's unique needs and aspirations, the issue of Quebec's sovereignty continued to loom large, shaping the political landscape for decades to come. The Quiet Revolution may have set the stage for a more assertive and self-confident Quebec, but it also underscored the complexities and challenges of navigating a diverse and evolving federation. The 1970s began with a dramatic test of Canada's resolve. The October Crisis of 1970, sparked by the terrorist actions of the Front de Libération du Québec, FLQ, shook the nation to its core. The kidnapping and subsequent murder of Quebec's Labour Minister, Pierre Laporte, sent shockwaves across the country. Prime Minister Pierre Elliott Trudeau, known for his charisma and strong leadership, invoked the War Measures Act. This controversial decision, granting the government sweeping powers, highlighted the fragility of Canadian democracy when faced with threats to national security. The 1970s also witnessed the rise of global economic instability. The OPEC oil crisis of 1973 led to soaring energy prices and economic recession, impacting Canadians from coast to coast. The Trudeau government implemented policies aimed at controlling inflation and stimulating the economy, but the road to recovery was long and arduous. Despite these challenges, Canada continued to evolve on the world stage, playing an increasingly active role in international affairs.